both of them down a little. Anyways, we are 20 seconds in. We're going to run the intro.
A Wicked Sobriety production. Welcome to the Dirtbag Adventures podcast, an in-depth interview-style podcast about outdoor recreation by Wicked Sobriety Productions, hosted by me, Derek Kern. Listen now for free wherever you get your podcasts, links in the show notes.
Dirtbag Adventures podcast, episode 006, Jimmy Sanders. Before we get started into the interview here, for the video people, you'll notice that I'm in a different area today. I'm actually on location with Jimmy in his man cave here. For the audio people, it doesn't really matter all that much. But what's up, man? Welcome to the show.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
Yes, sir. To start off here, we're just going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself. So if you want, you can tell everybody your name, your age, kind of where you're born and raised, and maybe one or two of your hobbies.
Okay. All right. My name's Jimmy Sanders. I was originally from Middle Tennessee. I've been in Georgia since '88, so most of my life I've been here. Anything outdoors, fishing, hunting, just about anything, just being outside.
Yeah. So Middle Tennessee, you mean like Murfreesboro, around that area?
Yeah, I actually from Columbia, Tennessee. It's
okay.
About 45 miles south of Nashville, close to Murfreesboro, yeah.
Okay, so you were... Is that where you first started hunting and fishing in that area?
Yep.
Or you were what, probably 20 years old when you moved here?
18.
18, so yeah, I'd say you have a lot of hunting experience there.
Yeah.
Thinking back, can you remember the first time that you went, you were introduced to the outdoors, whether it was hunting, fishing, camping, whatever it was? Can you remember how young you were?
Yeah, probably started maybe going out with my grandfather to the dove fields at maybe 5, 6, 7 years old. Yeah, and then we always camped during the summers for our vacation. So, I've been out doing that stuff as long as I can remember.
Okay, so if you were 5 or 6, you were dove hunting. Was that the first animal? Can you remember a dove, I guess, being your first animal that you ever killed?
Yep.
Yeah.
Dove was probably my first one. I can remember my first kill. It was actually 1 shot, 2 birds.
1 shot, 2 birds.
Yeah, I still have the shell case, and my grandfather saved the shell case, and I have it put up. Yeah.
Okay. How old do you think you were when you killed your first deer?
10.
10?
Yep.
And that was in Tennessee, I'm
Yep.
assuming.
Yep.
How would you rate the hunting in Tennessee versus hunting here? I know you hunt not really so much North Georgia, but it's Middle Georgia. What is the hunting up there, mostly mountainous versus kind of flatlands down here? How would you rate it?
The terrain where I'm from is pretty much the same as what it is around here. It's not really mountainous.
Okay. What about the deer? Do the deer grow bigger over there?
No, I would say the deer are probably the same size, same body size. They have the same. It's pretty much the same habitat. I mean, versus there to here, there's more pines and stuff here than what I remember back home. But yeah, it's pretty much the same. Okay.
Did you ever do a lot of squirrel hunting up there?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
They have those big fox squirrels up there?
We had fox squirrels, and I do have one. My first fox squirrel that I ever killed is mounted. It's actually at my parents' house. But I think there's more fox squirrels here than what I remember seeing there. A fox squirrel back then, when I was a kid, was pretty much a 1 in a million shot. You just didn't see them. It was mostly gray squirrels.
I've never seen a fox squirrel in North Georgia.
Yeah. There's one right above you right there.
Yeah. Well, a live one. Yeah. Not the general.
Yeah.
All right. where I know your dad fishes, and you and I have gone fishing before.
Yep.
But growing up, were you more prone to go hunting, or were you more prone to go fishing?
It was both.
Both.
During the summer, we were fishing. During the winter, we were hunting. But see, that's one of the things that's different from where I was born. I had probably 3,000 to 5,000 acres around me. We lived on a farm, a 20-acre farm, but everywhere around us was, farmland. And so I could get home from school, grab a fishing pole or grab a gun, and just walk out the door and go. Versus here, it's not like that.
No.
You don't have that. And I'm blessed to have that childhood because, like I said, we'd come home from school, you grab a gun, you go squirrel hunting, or if it was summertime, we would grab a fishing pole. I'd meet up with my neighbors. We'd just hit the woods because there were ponds all through the woods. We'd walk wherever we wanted to go.
So you were doing a lot of fishing, but I'm going to guess mostly bass fishing or like brim fishing.
Yep.
Probably not a whole lot of trout fishing.
No. I just started trout fishing here.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So looking back over the years, you've been predominantly a bow hunter, right? I mean, I know you've hunted a lot with a rifle, but have you always hunted with a bow, or was that something that you picked up as you got older?
No, actually, I was introduced to the bow when I was probably 11 years old. I got my first bow when I was 11. And it's funny that I'm remembering all this. My dad still has my first bow.
Really?
Yes.
That's kind of cool.
My first compound bow. Yes.
So you're introduced when you're 11. Is it fair to say that you're predominantly a bow hunter versus rifle? I know the last couple of years that we've talked about it, you've done more bow hunting than rifle. So I don't know if that kind of corresponds with the rest of your hunting career.
Yeah. Well, I'd rather be sitting in a stand with a bow in my hand versus a gun. Now, granted, I like hunting with a gun too, but a bow is just more close quarters. Everything's got to be, you can't shoot 200 yards with a bow.
Right.
Everything's got to be right. So I'm just more at home and more comfortable with a bow.
Okay, so to follow up that question, what is the biggest deer you've ever killed as far as a buck, as far as points or rack?
Right. Probably one of the 8 points that's in there.
8 points.
On the wall.
Was it killed with a bow or with a rifle?
Bow.
Bow. Okay.
Yep.
And I'm gonna guess here in Georgia. Yeah.
Yep.
So last year, you killed like 5 or 6, and all of those were killed with a bow, other than one, I think, right?
No. 2 were killed. I think I killed 2 with the rifle last year, and then I killed 1 with the bow.
Okay. So, what is your favorite brand of bow to shoot? What do you prefer?
Hoyt.
Yep. And have you shot the other ones? And you just find Hoyt to work better for you?
Yeah. I've shot Hoyt. I've shot Matthews. I've shot PSC. I've shot Bowtech. I've never shot an Elite, but I've held them in my hand, and just it's like everything else. It depends on what you want. Hoyt just feels better in my hand to me.
Right.
I mean, I can shoot any of them, but I'm just more comfortable with the Hoyt.
And you just bought a new bow recently.
Yeah.
Like within the last year.
Yeah.
Bought the newest Hoyt.
Yeah.
So your bow of choice is Hoyt. And speaking on rifle hunting, if you had one caliber rifle to choose when you went into the woods, which one would you grab every time?
Probably 30-06.
30-06?
Yeah. All around good gun.
Yeah, I really like a 30-06. I think that's going to be my next rifle. So kind of switching back over to the fishing side of things, out of all the years you fished, what do you think the biggest fish, like catfish, bass, whatever, what do you think the biggest one you've ever caught is?
30-pound striper.
30-pound striper?
Yeah.
What's the biggest catfish you think?
I don't know, maybe 5-6 pounds.
5-6 pounds?
Yeah.
That's the first time. Most of all the other guests I've had, when I ask them about catfish, it's usually in the 15-pound range.
Yeah.
But I don't guess you've done much catfishing.
Well, I never really catfished that much. As a kid, we would go on camping trips with my grandparents, and my grandfather would run trout lines.
Right.
So I've seen bigger fish, but as far as like catching with a rod and reel, yeah, probably 8 pounds maybe.
Well, I remember you saying you don't like catfish, so
Yeah,
that would make
I don't
sense
need
not to
them.
go.
I'll catch them, but
Yeah.
I don't care nothing about them.
And you're more of a climber stand kind of guy, or do you hunt out of a ladder stand?
I hunt out of both.
You hunt out of both?
Yeah.
Okay. No box stand though, right?
No.
No.
I have in the past, but I don't have any box stands.
Growing up, did you do any kind of coon hunting or running dogs or any of that kind of stuff?
I had friends that did coon hunting, and I would go with them, and we'd get lost in the woods like normal kids do, you know, at night, running around with flashlights. But no, I never was really big into that either. It's something that I would do with my buddies because they had dogs, but
Right.
it's not anything that I really ever got into.
I never coon hunted either. That was one of the things. Looking back now, I wish at some point I had gone on an overnight
Yeah.
excursion with a bunch of dogs, but I've never been.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a adventure when they tree one and you're running through the woods with your little lights and you're trying to find the tree, and then you get to the tree and the dogs are there and the coon's in the top, and it's pretty wild.
Yeah. So you enjoy, aside from hunting with your bow, you enjoy shooting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you find it, a lot of people describe it as like, I guess maybe therapeutic
Yep.
to like go out and shoot, 10, 15 reps.
Mhm.
And a lot of people do it every day.
Yep.
Do you find that same thing in shooting
Yeah.
your bow?
Yeah. There's been times where, all of us get weird stuff going on in life, and
Right.
it's just nice to go grab that, just like what you said, and go outside and shoot a few arrows. I may not hit where I'm aiming, but it is, something to do to ease your mind, and it is therapeutic.
I don't own a bow, so I'm not experienced that side of it per se, but I guess I could kind of see where it would be therapeutic. There's a lot that comes with archery, like knowing your windage and your pins and
Yeah.
your poundage and all that. So,
Yeah.
and you've recently gotten your girlfriend into bow hunting in the last year.
My fiance.
Fiance,
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah,
Good
yeah.
correction.
Yeah.
She's shooting that recurve.
She was shooting that recurve, just playing while I was out in the yard, just to give her something to do. But last year she got introduced to hunting, and she hunts with a crossbow.
And she made her first kill this past season, right?
She shot her first bow kill last year at 65 yards.
And basically dropped it
Dropped
like,
it.
like it was
Yes.
sitting still.
Yes, it
Yeah.
was it was great. Yeah. Actually, that deer is in the living room too. It was a 9-point.
9-point.
Yep.
So you got into trout fishing within the last 3 or 4 years?
Yeah, a lot heavier. I'd
Yeah.
say 4 years. Yeah.
And then me, you, and some guys from work have gone quite a bit over the last couple little 2 or 3 trout fishing seasons, I guess you could call it. I mean, Georgia doesn't really have a season as far as trout fishing because it's year round, but
Right.
the stocking season
Yeah.
is, basically from March to September, I think. I know you've fished a lot at Dix Creek, and then this past year I took you up to Rock Creek.
Mhm.
Is that the only 2 places that you've trout fished?
No, I actually have been a couple of other places. I couldn't tell you where they actually were.
Well, I know
it's
you've been
just
to Boggs Creek.
Yes, I've been to Boggs Creek, and that was a disaster. Trying to find water deep enough to fish in. I really didn't know what I was doing,
Yeah.
but it's a learning curve. But I actually got to go to a place last year. It's I want to say it backs up to Turner's Corner. I had a buddy that had some property up there, and we got to go up there and fish some last year and got caught in a monsoon, and pretty much all we saw was copperheads and water moccasins. It wasn't a whole lot of fishing. It was running from snakes, but it's pretty cool. But yeah,
by the way, he doesn't like snakes.
Yeah, I don't like snakes. If I see them first, I'm good. But yeah, I don't like snakes.
I guess up until the point that I'd started trout fishing with you, I was bad about just going out and catching my limit, taking my whole limit with me.
Yeah.
But since I've been trout fishing with you, I don't really do that anymore, because you kind of showed me, like, you don't have to keep every fish you catch.
Right.
And you only keep 3 or 4. Is that something that you've always done?
No. As a kid, we would go brim fishing, and we might catch 4-inch fish, and we'd put them on a stringer. It was more or less, growing up then, I think it was more or less who can catch the most, and we got to prove it. So when you pull your stringer out of the water, you better have fish everywhere. It don't matter the size, But no, I kind of, I guess, trying to be a steward of the land.
Yeah.
I don't, and that was the same with, as a kid, rabbit hunting, squirrel hunting, whatever. It was, you wanted to kill your limit, and that was the goal. You're out there. If the limit's 6, you want to get 6 because you want to be that guy that got 6.
Right.
But as I got older and started figuring out things, I don't always have to have 10 of something. Just enough for a fresh meal is fine by me. So,
It's funny how that works. As you grow older, I guess more mature, you learn, like, you, even as a young 20-year-old, you buy a hunting license or fishing license, and you are on the web page for Georgia DNR, for instance, and you're reading, and it's telling you how to be a good steward of the land and how to practice these things. But, like, even as a young 20-year-old, you don't think about that kind of thing. And, you got a 8 limit on your fish, and you got a 12 limit on your squirrels. That's what you're going for that day.
Yeah.
And then you don't really start, like, thinking, well, this fish ain't as big as what I know's in there.
Right.
And I have all day.
Right.
So I could catch 3 that are twice the size of this fish, and then I don't need 8.
Right.
And I think a lot of people with trout fishing get confused that, it's all about how you handle the fish.
Right.
If you wet your hands and you make sure your net's wet and you use the right type of hooks, you can release most trout back into the water to live and somebody else catch. But I've heard so many times people say, like, oh, if you touch a trout, it's pretty much dead.
Yeah.
Which I guess is kind of true if you don't follow the proper procedures on releasing one. But it's like, once you figure out wet your hands, wet your net, and then you release them, you could catch fish all day long in a river or a creek and only leave with the 3 or 4 that you need for, whatever couple meals.
Yeah.
I think I've tried to teach that to more people that I've come across, is like, if you do it right, you can fish all day and enjoy it and only take what you need. It's different if you're out there and you actually need the 8 fish for, that's your only food. But, a lot of these people I'm watching are following the stock truck around, and they don't need 8 fish. They're just, there to be there.
Yeah.
Kind of, I see it with deer hunting too. People have, 10 doe tags, and they take full advantage of it. They'll shoot 3 or 4 does at one time in one sitting. It's like, everybody needs meat, but
like, brown it's down, no matter what it is. Yeah.
Spots, it don't matter.
It don't matter. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been there as a younger individual too. It was like, I'm not going to beat around the bush. I've shot buttons before and didn't realize that's what I'd shot, but it was brown, it's down, and then get up there and go, oh, and then it's like, well, I'm still going to eat it. I'm not going to leave it here. I took this animal, so I'm going to use it.
Luckily, I didn't really get into, like, hunting a lot until I was over 30 years old. So I was able to go into hunting with a more mature mindset, and I've only shot what I've needed to shoot.
Right.
I mean, I don't think I've filled a full season's bag limit in
Right.
a 5-year time period.
Right.
I've only killed 1 or 2 deer a year.
Right.
All mature deers that
Right.
needed, I don't know if they needed to be killed, but, was capable of being killed.
Right.
Fishing was different, same, any little young kid, hell, I'd just catch them to catch them, I think, and throw them on the bank half the time and not even worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, do you keep up with any current event articles in the hunting or outdoor world, fishing world?
No. I used to read a lot of like Georgia Outdoor News, because you can get anything in there. But no, I really don't. I really don't keep up with all of that stuff.
One of the things that I talked to my buddy Chris about on the last podcast was Georgia DNR has decided to extend the rifle season for deer in South Georgia. There's only 6 counties though, and it's the 6 specific counties through almost, I think it's January 15th or January 20th or something like that is what they're wanting to extend the season through.
So they're adding maybe a week to it, maybe, because I think this.
I think it was
season
2 weeks.
Okay.
It's 10 or 12 days
Right.
is what they were proposing. I
Right.
think, and the article stated that the reason why is because, and they had an interactive map on there, and it shows on there when deer are going into rut.
Right.
And so for whatever reason, those particular counties in Southwest Georgia were going into rut real late.
Right.
They weren't rutting until the Christmas time, basically.
Right. Right.
So DNR saying, well, we want to give these guys in these counties enough time to be able to still hunt the rut with a rifle.
Right.
Because by that time, most counties, other than if you hunt with a bow in a few particular counties, season's closed.
Yeah.
So that brought up in the last conversation an interesting thing that I was going to get your perspective on is what would you feel about the deer hunting season being changed altogether? Say, instead of starting in September when it's still hot and most people don't even want to get out there,
Yeah.
to say 1 month sooner or 1 month later, rather. So instead of September, October, and then that would push you later into the fall, so instead of January, February.
Right.
Chris hunts a lot in Alabama, so he was saying that's how Alabama
goes almost. I was gonna touch on that, almost into sometime in February.
Yeah, so he was able to hunt from October 1st or October 10th or something like that is when season starts over there, all the way until the 4th or 5th of February. I'm not a biologist, so I don't know the specific reasons why they create these certain dates.
Right.
But just from being out in the woods and hunting early season, being out in the woods and hunting late season, it seems to me like there would be no reason why we couldn't move everything a month up.
Right. I mean, to me, my experience, December is a lull month for me. I don't see as many animals. Now, I still see animals, but I don't see as many in December where I have my lease at. Up until, it's like the first week of, or second week of November is when rut kicks in, usually down there. And we see animals running stupid and running wild. And, into October through the end of November around Thanksgiving is usually our better times. And then when December kicks in, it's like you go and sit and it's crickets.
Yeah.
You might see some movement. And I think it has to do with, I really don't know what it has to do with, but Alabama, I know, does run later, and they do kill a lot of big deer down there in February because that's the peak of the rut.
Right.
The peak of the rut to me, where I hunt, is not there. It's like I hunt here, right here at home too, with my bow, and the rut usually is first week of November for a couple of weeks, I see animals running stupid, and then I have caught them here again in, the middle of December, end of December, 1st of January, because, here I can bow hunt longer than I can, other places. So, but this year, the end of January here, bow hunting for me was it was crickets. I mean, I saw animals, but not,
So I think just from what I'm understanding over the last couple of conversations, and I've asked a few different people, it's like, I think the hunting season is scheduled a couple months before and a couple months after the main rut.
Right.
Because deer go into 2 ruts, right?
Yeah.
So they have a main rut, and then they have, a month later, they have a second rut that's not as long.
Yeah.
So I think the way I'm figuring it out is season starts a couple months before rut, ends a couple months after rut.
Right.
And they do that so that you have the biggest opportunity to kill something big during rut, because that's when they're going to be moving.
Right.
So really, I guess what it boils down to is it wouldn't make sense to move season for Middle Georgia if Middle Georgia's rutting in November, no matter how hot it is.
Right.
Because that's the thing. It's really miserable to be out there hunting.
Oh, yeah.
In September.
Oh, yeah.
Early October. It's 100 degrees still.
Mosquitoes, yellow jackets, everything else. Yeah.
That's just kind of what I was looking at, but it makes more sense when you think about it from that point of view. And I'm sure there's somebody out there that can pinpoint it exactly, but, just over talking to different hunters about it, that's kind of what I've gathered is different places rut at different times, which is obviously why they're changing that down there in South Georgia. And I do remember Chris saying that. Chris was saying that they rut, I don't know, in January or something over in Alabama.
Yeah.
And he's just right on the state line.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the peak rut, the way that I understand it in Alabama is in January. I mean, that's when it's on.
Okay. It's funny how, I don't know, an hour drive just west, and the terrain's relatively the same. Temperatures and everything are relatively the same, but for whatever reason, the animals are on a different, and maybe it's because of the different time zone.
Could be, I don't know.
I don't know how that would correlate, but it's just, an hour west, and they rut 2, almost 3 months later into the season than what they do here.
Well, I just figured out a few years ago. I mean, I never really thought about it, but I guess the bucks are ready to rut at all times. All they're doing is waiting on the does to come in. When the does come in, that's when it kicks off. When you start having does that are ready, then that's when it is. And the way that I understand it, like I said, I'm not a biologist, don't claim to be, never will be. But when they have the first rut, the second rut, when it comes in, that's for the does that didn't get bred in the first session. The ones that are coming in later. I mean, deer may come in way later than what we know. I don't know. I mean, I don't think they all say, all right, today's the 3rd of the month, it's time.
Right.
But the rut is a good time to hunt because you can see some crazy stuff. You can see deer running everywhere. I mean, there's nothing like sitting there watching them run all over everywhere.
The video you sent me of the 2 little 6-pointers fighting down there
this year.
Funny.
Yeah. Yeah, they thought they were kings.
Yeah. I don't really know of any other current events that's going on as far as Georgia and stuff is concerned. There's that whole fishing fiasco, but I mean, it's kind of beating a dead horse at this point.
Yeah.
It's those guys ended up going to jail. They're doing federal time.
Are they?
Yeah. They I don't know what the charges exactly were, but some kind of game laws were broken, obviously, and I'm sure there was some cruelty charges thrown in for, stuffing this fish full of weights, but, like I said, that's beating a dead horse at this point, because they're going to do what they want to do anyways, as far as the cheating is concerned.
Oh, yeah. It's like my dad said, my dad is a huge fisherman. Huge. And he said that stuff like that's been going on since he can remember.
Yeah.
You know, they've always had something.
Well,
somebody's going to figure out a way to try to beat the system.
The problem is now, though, is social media.
Yeah.
I mean, because everything is videoed or recorded, or pictures are being taken and posted. And, you know, even 10 years ago, you could have done something and got away with it for years.
Right.
Because nobody's there recording it,
Right.
nobody's there taking pictures. But now it's just one wrong move in a tournament. And if it's somebody, you might not even see them recording you. That happens a lot.
Yeah.
Somebody's recording you and you don't even know it, and it gets posted. Next thing you know, you're in fucking jail.
Shit has hit the fan.
Yeah.
I'd like to touch on something that we was talking about a minute ago with the trout fishing. You know, you and I fish a lot together, and we have a good time.
Right.
I mean, we get into some crap. We fell in the water. We've had a lot of stuff. But one thing that I've learned about the trout fishing, I don't know a whole lot about it, but, you know, we've seen guys chase the stock trucks or, you know, catch their limit, throw them in a cooler, go catch some more. But last year, I can't remember if you was with me or if I was by myself that time. We didn't hook up, but I was at a place and had just decided to go fishing that day, and I just got up and I went, and I caught 6 or 7 fish. I think I kept 2 fish that day.
Right.
But I had this guy and a gentleman and his wife and his son show up. And they come walking up through there, and they were like, you know, hey, have you caught any fish? And I was like, yeah, I've caught a few. And the gentleman said, well, you know, my son's wanting to fish. And I was like, you know what? Come here. Fish right here. I said, the fish are here. Catch all you want. And just to be able to step out of the way, give that young gentleman a chance to catch his first fish or catch several fish. I sat there and watched the kid catch 5 fish.
Right.
And the dad was like, what's the limit? And I was like, well, you know, you don't want to catch them, keep them all. Do like what I did, you know, let him catch a few. But I think he wound up keeping 4 fish. But that was just something that, you know, I like to do. I like to see the younger generation get out there and get into stuff like that. And maybe they carry on with doing it. And that's our stewards of the land for when we're dead and gone. You know, still have the young kids out there doing what they need to be doing outside instead of some of the stuff that's going on today.
Yeah, I mean, that's a teachable moment because you know, not only showed the kid, like, hey, right here,
right,
like, this is a perfect environment for what you're looking to do. But you also was like, listen, your limit's 8,
right?
But unless you really need it, you only want to keep 4,
right?
And so that's something that kid will remember from a young age, because that was something that I wasn't taught as a young age, and that's something that I've also talked with a couple other people about. Is like a lot of the things that we were taught as kids that were okay, as we grew older, we realized, well, it might have been okay, but it wasn't right.
It's not right. Yeah.
So like, yeah, it is okay to keep your limit of 8. That's why. That's why you got an 8 limit. But at the end of the day, it's like what is right and what is okay is 2 different things.
Right.
So like, what would be right is if you're out there for the fun of it, and you're only gonna have, you know, you're the only one in the house eating fish. You don't eat 8 fish for a meal. So you can do both things. You can go out and you can fish for the day and you can enjoy the day, and then you can still keep 1 or 2 fish to cook with your dinner that night for yourself.
Right.
In my case, no one else in my house eats fish. So there's all these years that I've kept all these fish end up getting put in bags and just left in the freezer, and then eventually they get freezer burned and end up getting thrown out. At the time, and even now, you don't really think about it. Right. It's like you clean your fish, you put it in the freezer. And then
you forget it.
6 months later, you're cleaning out your freezer, and you're like, it's trash. You throw it out, and then it's never thought about again. But you can prevent all that. Right. If you follow a little bit of these things that have been put in place over the years, and being able to teach that to another young person on the bank of a creek when you're fishing, even if mom and dad is there or uncle or whoever, is like, I think is a really good thing, you know?
Yeah.
And that is one of the reasons why the stock truck exists.
Right.
Is to give everyone a fair opportunity
Right.
to fish. Because like I said, you can go anywhere and fish in Georgia for the entire year. Like
Yeah.
when they changed the law, you can go, and then we have this whole thing called delayed harvest, which is in late winter, early spring. So it's happening right now. All delayed harvest is basically they are still stocking some of the bigger creeks and stuff. So like the Etowah, the larger parts of the Amacola, the Toccoa, they'll still go and stock those areas from the hatcheries, but they implement certain restrictions. So
Right.
barbless hooks, artificial lures only. And, you know, it's overbearing when you first try to go fish one of those areas.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
like,
yeah.
damn, there's all these rules. I don't
know what I'm using.
I ain't even gonna mess with that stuff, you know?
Yeah. See, that's why I didn't trout fish for a long time.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they would say, okay, this section from this bridge to that pine tree over there, you can only use this. And I'm like, well, I don't understand. I don't want to get in trouble for doing something that I'm trying to learn, but I'm not sure what I'm supposed to use in this area.
So like the most famous place around here is Edge of the World, Access.
Yeah.
On 53. So
Yep.
you got Edge of the World, there's a bridge there.
Yeah.
And then 6 miles upstream, you have Stillbridge.
Right.
So you can go to Stillbridge and you can fish at Stillbridge. And as long as you're fishing north on the river of Stillbridge, everything goes, right?
Right.
But as soon as you cross under Stillbridge, and then from Stillbridge, that 6 miles or whatever downstream to the 53 bridge at Amiclola,
Right.
is delayed harvest.
Right.
So that's where they come in on the 53 side. And I think they may do it at the Devil's Elbow too, but they'll stock there.
Right.
And then you'll roll up in there and you'll see the signs that say delayed harvest. And most people, if you're not a huge trout fisherman, you don't really know.
Right.
But if you look into it, it's basically, the basic rules are barbless hooks and artificial lures only.
Right.
So you can't roll in there with corn or
Right.
cheese or whatever, you know, like power bait that
Right.
we use when we go to Rock Creek.
Or
But-
shrimp that we've seen people
shrimp,
using.
yep. But it just let's see. The last couple days we had off work before we went on our 8 days, I went to Edge of the World. Actually, it was Friday. That Friday before we came in on Saturday. Anyway,
Yeah.
I was over there hiking around Edge of the World, and there were some guys out there. And I told you about this, but the guy, he was out there dressed in this, this whole get up. He had on his chest waders, and it looked like, they were probably $1,000 waders. Really nice.
Yeah.
Really nice fly rod, probably $1,000 rod. Net hanging off his back, all this fancy shit.
Looking good.
Looking good. I mean, spectacular fisherman. Standing out in the middle of the river, probably freezing his ass off because the water's still cold when you got waders on.
Yeah.
And I didn't see him catch a single damn fish. And then upstream from there is a guy standing on the bank with what looked like a deep sea fishing pole, something that he bought out of Walmart. And he had a damn plastic Chick-fil-A bag, and he was catching the shit out of trout.
Yeah.
I mean, just pulling them out. He probably had 4 or 5 in there. And it looked like this guy probably came there probably every day.
Right.
And probably got 3 or 4 or 5 fish.
Yeah.
And probably one of those select few I'm saying that eats fish as a meal every night.
Right.
That's just what it reminded me of.
Yeah.
Whether or not it was, I don't know. But it was just funny that you got a guy out there spending that much money on all this fancy gear to do, delayed harvest fishing.
Yeah.
And then you got little boy down here just ripping them out of there with a deep sea rod.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the thing with all of it. You don't have to have the most expensive. You don't have to have the fanciest. You don't have to have any of that with anything. And I've seen it with a lot of people, just like what you said. They think, okay, I'm going hunting. I got to buy the most expensive rifle. I got to buy the most expensive ammo. I got to have the most expensive boots. I got to have the most expensive everything. When reality is you don't have to have all that stuff.
No.
You just need to have what you need and be comfortable with what you're doing.
Yeah.
To enjoy it. Because it's not about that to me. And I'm just speaking for me. I don't have to have the most fancy stuff to go out and sit in the woods, because I can go sit in the woods and I can be just happy whether I have a bow in my hand and it's whatever, 25 years old. But I know that I'm capable of doing what I need to do with that, whatever it is in my hand, my rifle, my bow, I don't spear, but maybe I should try spearing, animals. But that's one of the things that I think a lot of people have lost. We're not getting back to. I was brought into the woods at a young age. My grandfather, my dad's dad, traveled all over everywhere hunting. He killed elk. He killed antelope. He killed, mule deer. He shot a lot of stuff. And so I was brought up in that environment, and I was taught the right way to do stuff.
Right.
So, and I think that's what a lot of people don't understand anymore. You can look at a magazine, that don't mean you know what you're doing, and you go out there and you wound animals, or, you get hurt yourself out there in the woods because you really don't know what you're doing. I'm not saying that even the most professional guys don't wound animals, because I've wounded animals and not found them. And it makes me sick, but it's not something that's going to turn me away from what I love doing.
No. It sounds really cliche, because a lot of people, and I just seen a thing this morning actually, but it's everybody wants to preach like, let's go back to when our grandfathers hunted.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that you always hear, every story every person will ever tell you is, my grandfather hunted in blue jeans and a red
flannel shirt.
Yeah, and killed the hell out of deer, right?
Yep.
So it's really cliche to say something like, let's go back to when my grandpa hunted.
Right.
But what I take from that is, like, the stigma around hunting now is, it is exactly what you said. Who has the nicest gear?
Yep.
Who has the newest scent lock technology?
Yep.
Who has the newest bull barrel 308, whatever, blah, blah, blah rifle that I can shoot 500 yards and make a kill shot if I want? And at that point, in my opinion, it's not about enjoying the woods. Because at the end of the day, the whole idea for everything that everybody should be doing is enjoying the woods.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're hunting for meat, that's all well and fine.
Right.
But once you have your meat, you're still going to hunt because you enjoy it. So that's where being out in the woods and enjoying the woods doesn't have anything to do with what you're wearing, or your scent lock technology, or your rifle you're hunting with, or your scope that you have, or none of those things matter. Right. I mean, so even as cliche as it sounds to say, hey, let's go back to this time, I think at the end of the day, it just means go back to a simpler time.
Right.
Like, let's go back to a time when all this shit didn't matter.
Right.
We didn't judge one another by what we were wearing into the woods.
Right.
Like, at the end of the day, we were there to help each other drag deer out of the woods wearing the same thing.
Yeah. As a kid, I can remember not even having hunting boots, hunting in my tennis shoes.
Yeah.
In the snow with your feet freezing to death, but it's just like what you said. It's all about what you enjoy. Yeah. I sat in a deer stand a lot of hours during deer season. It's one of my favorite times of the year. Whether I'm seeing deer or not seeing deer, I am happy sitting there and waiting, anticipating. And it's like what I've showed you, videos of a lot of deer that I see.
Right.
I don't have to shoot all those deer. No. I sit there and I watch those deer, and I try to learn from those deer. And that's my happy spot.
Right.
I can be having the worst week at work, and I can go sit in the woods for 3 hours on an off day, and that worst week was just taken care of, just sitting there.
Right.
And it's like what you said. It's getting back out in the woods and enjoying, not being rushed. Just enjoy. Take it all in. Yeah.
And we've talked about this before just between us, but it's like, it's funny how people are different, because here I am having a podcast talking about hunting and fishing and stuff, and I fish a lot. I don't hunt a lot. I have a problem sitting in a deer stand for 8 hours a day. I can't do it. Like
And
it drives me nuts.
What is it you tell me? How do you do it? Because you can't be still. And I'm like, yeah, but I can there. And that's the same thing that Shay tells me. She's like, you can't be still, but when you go to the woods, you can sit in the stand 6 or 8 hours out of the day.
I mean, I understand why or where you're coming from with that, because everybody has their own thing, like we talked about earlier. Right. I've tried like 4 or 5 hours max is what I've gotten a deer stand. If I'm not seeing if I'm not seeing anything, I can't. But on the other hand, I do enjoy being on the move. Mm-hmm. I enjoy learning to read animal signs, their movements, how they're moving to and from, and that's what drug me into trapping. Right. And whatever your opinion on hunting or trapping or killing animals is, doesn't matter. But like, trapping is one of the very first things that built America. I mean, the guys coming across from the westward expansion, that's what they were moving west for, was trapping. So it was kind of cool when I got into that to be able to do something that's that old and time tested. Yeah. And that requires a lot of knowledge about what's going on in the woods. Right. What's going on with your animals. I mean, you got to know those things, because if you don't, you're not going to catch anything. Yeah. Yeah. You got to be able to see signs, and you got to be able to place traps on signs, and you've got to know what signs you're looking at to make sure that you're hitting specific target animals. Right. And so like, it's funny, you like to sit in a deer stand for 8 or 10 hours a day, and I'm over here hiking 100 miles with 100 pounds of traps on my back. Now, like I said, I do spend a lot of time in the woods, and it's not all setting. Yeah. Now, during hunting season, it's setting, but pre-season, I'm in the woods. I'm looking. I'm trying to figure out where my animals are, which way my animals are going. And the places that I hunt, I've pretty much got narrowed down because I've hunted them for a long time. I know which way the deer are moving, or the other animals, because I see more than just deer. But now, preseason, kind of walk us through like getting ready for preseason. When does preseason start for you? Is that like... So deer now. Well, I know you were saying earlier that y'all didn't go to deer camp this weekend. So, that's like, I guess you go in, swap camera batteries, start getting your fields ready for seeds and making sure your shooting lanes are clear. Yep. Is that kind of what you're doing basically up until hunting season? Yeah. Well, the more you hunt, you have areas that you have, and you have your shooting lanes, just like what you touched on. But I'm a stickler for, I'll sit there and I'll look, and I'm like, okay, I'm not seeing no animals today. Let's see what we can change for next year. So I'm planning last year's season. I'm planning this year what I want to cut for next year to open up another little area where I might get a chance of seeing deer, or I might cut the wrong stuff and it turns the deer around and they don't even come in there anymore. Right. So, usually, January, the end of January, February, we're heading back down to deer camp, and we're starting to work, and we'll work all summer. We'll start cutting and getting stuff cleaned up now, so it's not as bad when the leaves and stuff start coming in. It's not as much work for us. And, we'll start planting in the spring, and just roll in and hope that we get good weather, and maybe the deer come in and eat $10,000 worth of seed or something. Who knows? What's the longest shot you've taken with a bow at a deer? Me, 60 yards. With your regular compound? Yes, yes. I don't hunt with a crossbow. How'd that turn out? I missed one, and the furthest one that I've killed has been 58 yards. 58 yards? Yeah. And that's an 80-pound bow? No, that one right there is actually 75. Okay. It was on 75 when I bought it, but I cranked it down to 70, so I'm shooting 70 pounds. All right. It's plenty fast. It's not as fast as Shay's crossbow, because that thing's like shooting it's scary to me. I don't like it. It's too fast. Yeah. So out of all the years of hunting, fishing, and all these other outdoor activities that you've done, what is one of the craziest things that you've experienced or seen while you've been in the woods?
Craziest experience.
And it doesn't have to be like, you know, paranormal or whatever, but just like crazy, wildest, maybe animal encounter or thing you've ever seen while you've been out in the woods. Because, I mean, over the years, you start adding up the hours and stuff that you've spent out there, and, you know, thousands of hours you've spent in the woods. So
yeah,
you're going to see a lot of different wild and crazy shit that a lot of other people aren't going to see.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the coolest things, or one of the wilder things that I can bring up pretty quick is, you know, seeing hawks come in and take out squirrels, or see a hawk come in and grab a snake. I've seen that a lot, and it's like, what in the world just happened? You know, it's just you hear the ruckus, and I've actually seen it happen. Or, you know, you see an owl and a hawk going at it in the woods.
That would be kind of cool.
You know, it's kind of, I saw that last year. I was like, what is dying up there? And it was a hawk on one side. I don't know if they were trying to get the same whatever it was on the ground, and then an owl on the other. And it was like, wow, this is pretty neat. But I'd have to say that's probably just seeing nature take on nature.
Yeah, nature do its thing.
Yeah. I've seen some crazy things in the woods, but yeah, that's got to be one of the top things.
Yeah, I'd like to see the owl thing, because I've only seen like one owl in the woods.
Oh man, I've seen some from, you know, the little owls like this size to, you know, I've seen them that look like they could haul me off.
Yeah,
you know, they just seem that big when they come in. It's like
those barn owls
coming.
Yeah. Those barn owls get big.
Yeah.
So this year you're, I guess, like every other year, you're planning for season already, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
And we've got trout fishing's about to start.
I'm ready. We've already started talking about that.
Actually, I think they're already stocking. I've been getting emails already from the stocking report. I haven't looked at them because it's still kind of cold, but
you and I are not the guys that go out there with the waders. We step in the water, so right now
not the time to be in there. Honestly, looking at the forecast for the next 2-3 weeks out, it's going to be in the 80s.
Yeah.
For as far, I mean, just at the end of February, and it's in the 80s for as far out as you can see. But I'm kind of wondering if this is a blackberry winter.
Yeah. Be snowing in March.
Yeah, I think it was last year or the year before that happened.
Yeah. It's kind of wild.
But I don't know. Like I said, I haven't looked real hard at what they were stocking, but they have been sending out emails the last couple of weeks about stocking, and with the temperature getting higher, it's just about that time to get out
ready.
there. Yeah,
I'm ready.
You never turkey hunted?
No, never turkey hunted. Never been nothing that I actually bought a turkey gun several years back. And I have not been turkey hunting. It's one of those things. It's you know, I love deer hunting.
Yeah.
And everybody said if you do turkey hunting once, you're going to be hooked. Well, I don't need to be hooked on something else. You know, I wouldn't mind trying it, but I've never done it.
Yeah. A lot of my friends turkey hunt, and that's the thing for them is turkey hunting.
Yeah.
I went turkey hunting, and of course, I didn't get on any. Well, I take that back. We got on turkeys, but I didn't get a shot at one. But I mean, it was fun, I guess. But turkey hunting is, and I think this is kind of what draws people to it, is it's way harder than deer hunting.
Yeah.
Turkeys are way they're ground level first of all with you, but they're really good vision and stuff.
Yeah.
So in the realm of turkey hunting, your gear probably does actually matter.
Yeah.
You know, the more camouflaged you are, the better. But it also, I didn't turkey hunt last season. I was invited to go, but it's like, I got other things going on, you know. But I was talking to my buddy Hunter, and so I guess they've changed the rules and regulations again this year on some things. They entered a quota hunt, and he didn't get picked for anything, but his girlfriend, Alyssa, she got drawn for a quota hunt up at Dukes Creek in Helen.
Yeah.
And so I think it's one specific day from a specific time to a specific time. You can be there and you can hunt.
Right.
And there's only like so many other people that get that same quota. And so he was going to go and he was going to call for her and help her scout and stuff. And when he was telling me this, I was like, I don't know if you can do that. Like, I've never personally read somewhere that says you can't.
Right.
But he texted me like a few hours later and he's like, man, this is some bullshit. He's like, I called DNR and DNR told me, nope, you can't even be out there with her. She's got to be by herself.
By herself? Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm not sure what's going to happen there. Hopefully she'll use it and go, because she scouts a lot with Hunter. They go together and they scout, so she knows she knows everything she's looking for.
Right.
So hopefully she'll still go out and use that.
Maybe she'll kill the biggest one yet.
Yeah, so that's what he was trying to say. She's hunted with him for the last 3 seasons and hadn't put down a bird yet.
Right.
So he was hoping that getting out on a quota hunt should have more of a chance where there's more turkeys. So hopefully she does get out there and put down a big bird.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
And then Hunter really hate himself.
Yeah. You ever have any plans to hunt anywhere else besides Georgia? You have any plans to do any kind of out west hunting, big elk or something?
I've always wanted to go out west, and that was one of the things that my granddad always talked about. One day we're going to go west. We're going to go to Wyoming. We're going to go to Montana. We're going to, and it never happened.
Right.
It's just one of those things. But like I said, my grandfather traveled around. He killed a lot of animals, a lot of stuff. But I would like to try to take an elk with my bow. I really want to kill an alligator with my bow, as you know. I don't know why.
Well, we got to talk to Georgia boy about that.
I know.
Your grandfather, so we're talking what, probably 80 years ago when he was adventuring around hunting?
Probably not 80, but yeah, I can't remember how old he would be. I mean, most of his hunting was done before I was born, so I'd say better than 60 years ago.
So I wonder, 60 years ago, what it was like to get an out-of-state license. That's a big hold-up for a lot of people now. Yeah. It's like, to get an out-of-state license for even a portion of a season in Wyoming or Montana to hunt a big bull elk is like $2,000 or better.
Yeah. And then do you have to be drawn for it too? I mean, it's not just by a license.
Yeah, in Wyoming, I mean, I don't know about Wyoming. I haven't looked into Wyoming specifically, but in Montana, like here, basically a license covers the whole state.
Right.
We don't have regions. We don't have this or whatever. The only thing that we have that's similar is doe days and buck days can be different depending on county.
Yeah.
So you need to know that. Yeah. And then you have the whole extended archery season that's only for like 6 or 8 counties. So you need to know that. But like in Montana, they've got like probably 50 regions in the state that are outlined by regions. And each region is labeled as like A1 or B1 or whatever. Well, each region has a different hunting regulation. So you could have A1 and A2 next to each other. And A1 may be that you could kill a bull elk this specific size. And then an A2, which is 50 miles from A1, it could be, well, the bull elk has to be this size.
Right.
So you might not even get a chance at a bull elk in A2. And there are a lot of places like far north towards Canada and the Bitterroot Valley and stuff where you have to do a draw hunt. And the draw is like, some people are in that for 10 years or longer before they draw for certain animals that they want to hunt up there.
Yeah, touching back on that, I remember as a young guy, most of my grandfather's hunts were filmed. And
wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't actually be the kill film, but they would. I can remember seeing horseback. A lot of it was horseback stuff. It was on an old reel.
And stuff,
it was on an old reel camera. I remember seeing those. I think my dad may still have those. They may have got them swapped over to DVD or VHS or something. But I can remember as a young guy seeing some of that stuff, and seeing when he would pack up like in a old station wagon, you know, and head out west, It was cool. Times were different, just like what you said, but it's times change. You know?
I mean, I've been invited to go on a hunt out west. That's why I was asking about it. And I'm not a bow hunter, so it would be a rifle hunt for me.
Right.
But, I mean, I guess I probably could afford it if I made myself afford it, but just for tags and tickets and stuff for a specific region of where I was going to be hunting is a certain amount.
Yeah.
But then it's travel time there, however much it's going to cost. And the thing is, you can't just shoot an animal and put the animal on a plane, especially if it's a 1,000-pound bull.
Right.
So then it's travel time back. But not only is it travel time back, it's travel time, car.
Yeah.
You got to figure out a way to keep your meat without ruining. Like, there's a lot of preparation that goes into that.
Preparation and work. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think anybody who said they didn't want to shoot a big bull elk or moose or something like that would be lying because, I mean, who wouldn't?
Yeah.
I think every guy that hunts probably dreams of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, our whitetail here get decently sized, but compared to an elk rack, I mean,
no.
An elk rack wouldn't even fit on this wall.
Fit in here. Yeah, need a bigger room. Maybe it's what I'd have to have if I went elk hunting.
But yeah, so, and you've hunted that same property for years now, right? And that's the only place. Well, you hunt a place here in town, but other than that, this is really the only places you hunt.
Yeah, I hunt here. I've been down there for a while. I've hunted Hancock County. I've hunted Wilkes County. Of course, I've hunted in Dahlonega, up around that area. Of course, that's more bears than it is freaking deer. You got to be a goat to hunt up there. All the goddamn mountain laurel and other shit. But yeah, I've hunted, but my key areas are here, and that's one of the things that's getting harder and harder to do too, is get permission to hunt anywhere because people destroy other people's property and people don't want you on it. And then, you got buildings going up everywhere, which is pushing all the animals into one little corridor. It's just crazy how this has grown. I've been here since, like I said, I moved here in '88. There was nothing here in this area. I mean, really nothing. And now it's just like
now if
going
you look
to
out
Atlanta.
your back porch over here, that
And
whole valley all the way to the mountain out there is dirt.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm really ready to go trout fishing. We've been talking about it. It's almost time to do it.
Yeah.
You'll have to video that too because we have some pretty fun stuff happen while we're on the adventures.
Yeah, last year we did anyways. What's funny about that is I brought my camera with me every single time on every trip we've done.
I know.
And for whatever reason, I just get caught up and never turn it on.
Well, and it was like that one time I remember you had your other camera and you're taking pictures of butterflies laying in the bushes. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Oh, I'm getting a picture of this butterfly. I'm like, oh, okay, I get it.
It's like we talked about earlier. You got to appreciate every aspect of nature when you're out there. Some people bypass the small things, and sometimes it's the small things that matter the most, like new growth and wildflowers, and when butterflies are just starting to come about, and seeing the fresh blooms on trees. That's a huge part of nature that I think a lot of people overlook. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I've just like with a camera to try to photograph and try to appreciate every time I'm out there.
Yeah. There's always something new to see outside, that's for sure. And just like what you said, sometimes you don't see the same thing twice. You see one shot, that's it. You may never see it again.
No, it's like that saying, and I'm going to butcher it here, but it's like, if a man steps in a river, or a man can never step in the river, a man can never step in the same river twice, and he can never be the same man when he steps in that river, or something along those lines. Basically, because the river's ever changing, and as a person, you're ever changing. Yep. So you can't, I mean, and I do see that kind of in the woods as well. Like, you might go hike a trail, a short day hike or something, down a trail that you've been down a million times, and see something different when you go down there, just because the woods are ever changing. Storms change things, animals change things, seasons change the way the woods look. So
I agree.
Well, man, it's been a good talk, and I appreciate you doing this.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like we could probably have a couple different episodes.
Oh, yeah.
Among many different things. But I enjoyed being in your man cave here and seeing all of your trophies.
Seeing some of the smaller animals. These are some of the smaller ones. The other ones are in another room.
It's still cool, though.
Yeah.
This is a good-sized guy right here.
Yeah. That one was taken last year. Both of those I took last year. Yeah.
But yeah, so I appreciate you coming on, and I look forward to doing it again.
Yep. Enjoyed it, brother.
Thank you. All right, man. Before we close this out, I have a favor to ask from the audience. One, could you please be sure you subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you're listening so that you can receive all new episodes right when they're released. And then if you could, go ahead and head over to iTunes or the Apple Podcast app and leave a review. Man, tell us what you enjoyed or what we could do better. Offer up a guest recommendation, etc. This will help tremendously in letting Apple know that people are actually enjoying the content, and it will help us be put into the search engines or recommended more often in the search engines. And lastly, Dirtbag Adventures is on several social platforms, including YouTube. Really, the best way to reach this content is by going to www.dirtbagadventurespodcast.buzzsprout.com. And then once you're on the website, you'll see the podcast episodes down at the bottom in chronological order. And then at the top of the homepage, you'll find all of the social links for the other various platforms that Dirtbag Adventures is on. And thank you again for joining me in this episode of the Dirtbag Adventures podcast. Catch you on the next one.